They say never trust a shortcut after dark. Mine took me off a Carolina blacktop onto a road that doesn't exist, to a church the county swears burned in 1932, and a fresh grave already carved with my full name and tonight's date. I've spent half my life on Carolina backroads after dark, and I'll tell you this much: pavement will lie to you same as people will. It was late, later than I'd meant for it to be. I'd been out filming an old church cemetery a few counties over, chasing that last bit of blue light for B-roll I probably didn't even need. By the time I packed the tripod and swung my leg over the bike, the sky was full black, just a dull smear of town glow behind me. I thumbed the starter, listened to that Harley settle into a low, steady rumble. Felt good, felt familiar. I set the GPS on the bars to just keep from missing my turnoffs. I know the roads, but I've also missed the same exit 3 times in 1 week, so I don't get cocky. Screen lit up, map loaded, little blue triangle pointed home. Proceed to route, the voice said. Yeah, I'm going, I muttered. Rolling out, gravel popped under my tires as I eased onto the county road. Trees closed in quick, branches knitting over my head like fingers. I rode maybe 10 minutes before the first sign of trouble. Fog rolled in low to the ground, thick and sudden, like somebody dumped milk in the holler. My headlight hit a white wall and pushed maybe 30 yards, no more. The GPS on the bar zoomed in and out like it was nervous, little digital road squirming under my icon. Recalculating. Then a voice came back, flat and calm. Rerouting. I frowned. To what? We're on the only road, sweetheart. The line on the map shifted like it had changed its mind. A thin gray road appeared to my right that I knew for a fact did not exist. County Road 0, it said. No number I'd ever seen around here. Turn right in 0.3 miles, the voice said. I shook my head. Nope, not tonight. But the fog thickened like it heard me, and up ahead I saw something worse than a fake road on a screen. Orange barricades and a reflective road closed sign spread across the pavement. Rerouting, the GPS said again, like it'd been waiting. I slowed to a crawl, motor thumping under me. I hid in the barricade. I could squeeze around the shoulder if I wanted to play stupid games. The ditch was deep, though, and the dirt was soft, and I'd already pushed my luck this week. I stopped in the middle of the road, breath fogging up the inside of my helmet. Fog 20 feet thick in front of me, no shoulders to trust, and that little gray line on the screen offering a shortcut through nowhere. I sighed. This is how people end up in stories I tell. The GPS chimed. At 200 feet, turn right. There was no right, just dark woods and a half-rotten fence. Then my headlight swung over a narrow cut in the trees, a break in the ditch just wide enough for a car, 2 old leaning fence posts like a gate with no gate. And in that beam of light, barely catching the reflector, tacks nailed to the post, I saw it. A faded bullet-peckered county marker, so old the paint was almost gone. No other number, just the 0. The GPS whispered in that same calm tone, turn right. I should have turned around, should have gone the long way. But it had been a long day, and the shortcut was right there. And sometimes we all ignore that little voice in our gut for the loud one coming out of the speakers. I eased the bike toward County Road 0. The moment my front tire dropped off the main road and onto that little cut, the air changed. cold hit like a slap, not the normal kind either. That was deep cold you feel in your teeth and soft spots behind your eyes. The pavement disappeared under me, turned to packed dirt with just a memory of gravel. The headlight caught ruts and old tire tracks, but they were shallow and pale, like nobody had come down this way in years. Trees crowded close, limbs clawing over my helmet. There were no mailboxes, no porch lights, no blue glow of TVs through curtains, just trees, oak, pine, and something else I couldn't name, all leaning in like they were listening. The GPS map shifted again. The road on the screen straightened out, long and narrow. Continue on current route for 3.6 miles, it said. 3 miles, I muttered. Piece of cake. But the odometer rolled past 1 mile, then 2, and the GPS stuck at 1.2. I glanced down, then back up. Headlight washed over the same twisted, lightning-struck stump on my left. Another minute, the same stump showed up again, scar and all, on the same side of the road. All right, I said out loud, my voice tight. That's not funny. I slowed. Gravel crunched. The bike idled rough, like he didn't like this any more than I did. Fog rose up from the ground, a low, slinking blanket that hugged the ruts. My headlight didn't cut it as much as it smeared through it. Every turn of the front wheel felt like I was dragging through syrup. Then I saw the sign. Off to the right, nailed to a tree, barely hanging on one rusted nail, a hand-painted wooden board. White paint gone to gray, letters brushed on crooked. Advent Hope Church. The arrow pointed down an even smaller track, almost hidden in briars and saplings. The GPS map jumped like it got excited, and the route line bent, pointing straight at that little road. In 100 feet, turn right, the voice said. I knew a lot of churches, especially the old ones. Advent, Zion, New Hope, Old Hope, Mount something, Pleasant something, you name it. I keep lists. I shoot videos. I know their cemeteries like I know the veins in my hands. But I'd never heard of Advent Hope on this side of the county. Still, there was the sign, old as sin, arrow clear as day. I sat there with the bike idling between my knees, staring at that little track. The woods were so quiet it felt loud. Rerouting, the GPS whispered in my ear, though I hadn't moved. Last time, I told it, you lead me into a meth lab, we're breaking up. I turned the bars and eased the Harley down the lane toward Advent Hope. The road to the little church was barely a road, more like two grooves where tires had once gone, some long time ago. Grass grew up the middle, slapping the underside of my bike. Branches reached across, scratching the tank and my arms in passing. My headlight walked slowly over tree roots in the lane and low-hanging limbs, and the air was so still it felt like the woods were holding their breath. Then the trees broke and rolled out into a little small clearing and let the bike idle to a stop. There, dead center, sat a white clapboard church. It looked like every country church I'd ever seen, and somehow worse. The steeple leaned a little, paint peeled off in long curls. One of the front steps had sunk, so the whole porch sagged to the left. The windows were dark, except for one up in the bell tower, where a faint, warm glow pulsed like a candle. In front of the church, hemmed by a low stone wall, lay a small graveyard. Simple stones, most of them. A few taller monuments. Angels with moss-streaked faces, the kind of place I'd normally be happy to find. Normally. The GPS spoke again, but the tone was off. The words came slow and flat. You have arrived at your destination. The hair lifted on my arms. I killed the bike and listened. Motor ticked as it cooled. Beyond that, nothing. No crickets, no dogs, no distant highway hum. Just a soft, steady ring in my own ears. I pulled my helmet off, swung my leg over. Boots landed in dirt that felt a little too soft, like it had just been turned. I told myself it was just a damp clearing. The minute my feet hit the ground, my phone screen flickered. The lock screen flashed my normal time and date, 10:42 p.m., Wednesday, November the 12th. Then it glitched. 10:42 p.m., November the 12th, 1972. Then 1951, then 1923. The numbers scrambled, rolled, then snapped back to normal. It all started at nope. I shoved the phone in my pocket and told myself it was just some cheap update bug. It happens. But I was already walking toward the small stone wall. I should have turned the key, backed up, gotten back on the main road. I know that. You probably know that. But the thing about me is, if there's an old church and a graveyard at the end of some cursed cow trail, I'm going to go look at the stones. Even if my own bones are telling me to leave it alone. The gate in the stone wall was a simple iron arch. No gate left, just two posts and a curve overhead. Words once painted there had faded to faint shadows. All I could make out was hope and a few ghost letters before and after. I stepped through it. The ground felt different, not soft, heavy, like the air had weight to it and the earth had memory. The rows of headstones stood in crooked lines, some leaning like they were tired. My flashlight beam walked across names and my stomach tightened. They were names I recognized. Not specific folks I knew, but family names I'd seen 100 times, scattered across half the cemeteries in 3 counties. McSwain, Henson, Tipton, Wood, Bishop, Collins. Names that lived out here, same as kudzu and red clay. But the dates were wrong. I stopped at one and read, Sarah Ann Tipton, born 1891, died 1915. She never left the hill. I knew a Sarah Ann Tipton buried up on another ridge, clear on the other side of the state line. Different dates, different words, same full name. I moved on, feeling my throat go dry. Another stone, James W. Henson, born 1903, died 1924. He took the short way home. That line sat wrong in my chest. My light swept farther, more names, more family lines. Some I was pretty sure were still alive in my phone contacts. Every epitaph felt like a warning. He didn't listen. She wouldn't turn back. He arrived on time. I swallowed and told myself I was tired, that I'd been seeing stones all day, and my brain was just making connections I wanted it to see. Then I saw it. A headstone near the middle, not the oldest, not the newest. Average in every way, about waist high, rounded top, lichen crawled up both sides like gray fire. The letters were worn, but sharp enough to read. I knew the last name before my light even settled on it. It was my own last name, so my eye goes to it by habit. But then my light slipped down to the line under it, and every bit of warmth left my body. It was my full name. Not close, not similar. My full name. First and last, spelled right, middle initial off by 1 letter, but that didn't help. Born September the 18th, 1974. Died November the 12th, 2025. He should have turned around. I stood there, mouth open, breath gone, listening to my heart slam so hard it made my vision pulse. The stone looked old, not dug in yesterday as some kind of sick prank. The edges were softened from weather, moss filled the name seams, the dirt around the base had that settled look, like it'd been rained on for years. I knelt without meaning to, fingers shaking as I touched the dates. Cold rock, solid and real. Behind me, the bell in the church tower tolled once, just once. Deep and low, like somebody in the dark had pulled the rope with a slow, heavy hand. The sound rolled out over the graves and through my bones. My flashlight flickered. I stood up fast, backing away from the stone with my name on it, and my stomach was flipping. "This is a trick," I said, voice too loud in the quiet. "Somebody's screwing with me." There was nobody to hear me, nobody to argue, except the dead. And that dim, warm light in the church window, shining a little bit brighter now. The front door of the church was barely hanging on its hinges. One side sat crooked, the wood dark from where 100 hands had pushed it open over the years. A sliver of light leaked through the crack, low and yellow like lamplight. I should have gone back to the bike. I knew it in my gut. Every hair on my arms and neck agreed. But if there's one nasty habit I've never kicked, it's wanting to see what's behind the door everybody runs from. So I stepped up on the leaning porch. Wood creaked under my boots. Long, slow groan that sounded like somebody waking up sore. My hand closed around the doorknob. Cold. Too cold. I pushed. The door swung open with a drawn-out whine. The smell hit first. Not rot. Not exactly. More like old dust, damp wood, and something sweet underneath, like flowers left in a room too long. The sanctuary inside glowed with that lamplight I'd seen. Candles, I thought at first. Little flames on the end of the pews. Then my eyes adjusted, and I saw there were no candles. The light had no source that I could see. It just hung there. Dim gold haze that pulled in the middle and left corners thick with shadow. Pews lined both sides of the narrow aisle, and every pew was full. Figures sat shoulder to shoulder, Sunday clothes neat and proper, dark suits, faded dresses, wide-brimmed hats, some small shapes that looked like children, all with their faces turned toward the front. I couldn't see their faces. The night light never reached that high. It stopped around the collar level, so all I saw was cloth, stillness, and the sense of staring. At the end of the aisle, up on a small raised platform, stood an old wooden pulpit. Behind it, mounted high, a plain wooden cross. In front of the pulpit, a coffin lay open on 2 sawhorses. I stayed in the doorway, one hand on the frame, fighting the urge to run. Then I heard a voice. It was a man's voice reading from scripture in that slow rolling cadence I grew up with. Familiar verses about death and appointed times and going home. It took me a second to realize why my skin crawled. The voice sounded like mine. Not exactly. More like me if you recorded me and played it back through an old speaker. Same drawl, same rhythm, same little roughness on certain words. I couldn't see whoever was speaking behind the pulpit, just out of that golden haze. "And so we lay our brother down," the voice said. "He knew the way. He followed the road that was given. He came when he was called." The congregation murmured something soft, like a distant wind through leaves. Not words I knew, not any language I recognized, just a low sound. The coffin in front of the pulpit held something long, wrapped in cloth, flannel. I realized with a lump in my throat, same color as the old work shirt I had on under my jacket. My fingers dug into the door frame. "Nah," I whispered. "No, that's not." I trailed off because the voice in the pulpit kept going, and the next part was not for a funeral. It was a roll call. Name after name, read out loud in that same tone. Names from stones outside. Names I knew from other graveyards. Then he said mine, full, first, middle, last. "Present," my mouth said without my permission. The words came out of me like someone else pushed it. Every head in the pews turned at once, slow, perfectly in sync. 100 shadowed faces pivoted toward the back of the church, toward me. The light didn't rise high enough for me to see their eyes. but I felt them. Felt that weight hit my chest like a room full of people had been waiting all night for me to walk in. The voice in the pulpit chuckled, not kindly. "Our late arrival joins us," he said. "He came the long way round, but he came." I backed up a step. The porch behind me creaked like something shifted. "Rerouting," the GPS in my pocket whispered. I didn't remember touching it, didn't remember turning the volume back on, but I heard it clear as day, muffled through my jacket. "Rerouting, rerouting, final route confirmed." Something moved at the front of the church. The long shape in the coffin sat up an inch. I slammed the door and stumbled backward off the porch. I hit the ground hard enough to rattle my teeth, but I didn't feel it much. All I knew was distance. I needed more of it between me and that doorway. The bell in the tower rang again, once, twice, 3 times, each toll slower than the last, heavy enough to make the air feel thicker. I bolted for the gate, boots slipping in the soft dirt. That's when I saw a new hole. There beside the stone with my name on it yawned a fresh, open grave, 6 feet long, sides neat, dirt piled high on the tarp beside it, no shovels, no tools, just the hole waiting. I swear on every stone I've ever filmed, that grave had not been open when I walked in. The longer I looked at it, the darker it seemed, not just shadow, dark, like it swallowed light as it fell in. My feet tried to keep running past, but something in my chest stuttered. I felt that old church upbringing rise up like a tide, and I yelled the first verse that came to mind. "Yea, though I walked in the valley of the shadow of death." My voice came out hoarse, shaking. The ground under my boots shifted just an inch, enough to make it feel like it breathed. I took another step, eyes locked on the path ahead, pretending I didn't see the loose edge crumble just a little closer to my toes. "I will fear no evil," I pushed on, louder now. "For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me." Behind me, the church door creaked open. I didn't have to look to know. I heard the soft scuff of 100 shoes on old wood, heard the swell of that not quite language, like wind and water and gravel all talking at once. "Rerouting," the GPS murmured again. "Destination, home." I grabbed the stone wall at the gate and used it to haul myself up and over, ignoring the open entrance 2 feet to my left. My boots landed outside the graveyard, and I swear the air felt thinner, like it had more room to move. I risked one look back. The congregation of Advent Hope stood in the yard now, just inside the stone wall, rows of dark coats and dresses, all still, all facing me. No faces, just that band of dim light on their chests and hands. The man at the front, the preacher, stood by my stone. His head was tilted, like he was listening to something only he could hear. He raised one hand, slow, palm out, invitation or warning, hard to say. The hole at his feet seemed deeper than 6 feet now. "I ain't your man," I whispered, voice scraping in my throat on the way out. The preacher's hand lowered a little, like he was disappointed. The bell rang a 4th time. The ground outside the wall buckled just once, like a great animal shifting in its sleep. I turned and ran for the bike. The Harley sat exactly where I left it, patient and quiet, like a good horse. I jumped on, half expecting the engine to flood, or the key to snap, or the bars to come off in my hands. Instead, the second my weight hit the seat, the headlight flared to life. I hadn't even turned the key. The motor roared under me, loud and sudden, drowning out the bell and the murmurs and the whatever whisper, and started up in the trees. I didn't question it. I saved the miracle talk for later. I kicked it into gear and pointed that bike back down the rutted track I'd come in on. As the headlights swept over the lane, I saw them. They stood along both sides of the narrow road, shoulder to shoulder, just beyond the ditch, Same dark clothes, same Sunday best. Hats, dresses, long coats, faces still swallowed by shadow. None of them looked at me. They all faced away from the church, toward the road out, as if they were some sort of long, silent procession that I'd just cut in front of. I swallowed hard, grabbed a handful of throttle, and went. As I rode between them, I braced for cold hands, for someone stepping out, for clothes brushing my shoulders, but none of them moved. As my headlight passed by each one, they faded, not like shadows, like dust in a strong wind. They unraveled piece by piece, and by the time my rear tire rolled past where they'd been, there was nothing left but fog, and that left a tight feeling in my chest. Continue straight, the GPS instructed. Voice back to its usual calm. In 4 miles, turn left. 4 miles. The track hadn't been half that long coming in. I gritted my teeth, kept going. Trees blurred into smeared tunnel. Fog thinned, then thickened, then thinned again. Up ahead, right in the middle of the lane, something small and pale stepped out into the beam. I hauled up the bars, squeezed the brakes on instinct, back tire skidding sideways. The bike threatened to lay down, but somehow stayed up. The figure stood in the center of the track, a little girl, by the height and the shape, wearing a simple dress that might have been white once. Bare feet, hair hanging limp, her face was tilted down and her hair was hiding it. I had a split second to decide, stop, swerve, or go through. I chose wrong and right at the same time. I chose to trust my gut, which told me this thing was not a child anymore. I gunned it, straight at her. For half a heartbeat, I felt every Sunday school teacher I ever had gasp. My front tire passed through her like mist. Cold knifed my jeans and into my bones, up my spine, across my scalp. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. I didn't close my eyes, though. As I passed through, she lifted her head just enough for me to see the empty hollows where eyes should have been, and a mouth that didn't quite match any human jaw I'd ever seen. "You're late," she whispered. The voice came from inside my helmet, not from the road. Then she was gone. The bike bucked once like it hit a pothole that wasn't there. Fog blew out in front of me like smoke in a high wind, and suddenly I was back on pavement. The front tire hummed on smooth asphalt as if it had never left. The tree stood back at a respectful distance, and a familiar old farm fence rolled by on my right. I knew this intersection. I'd ridden it 100 times. A simple 4-way crossroad with a busted stop sign shot full of holes, and a little white church way off to the left on another hill. My tire slid a bit as I braked, half from speed, half from confusion. Behind me, there was no dirt cut, no leaning fence post, no bullet-scarred zero marker, just a solid tree line and a shallow ditch filled with dead leaves. I sat there in the middle of the crossroad, heart beating in my throat, watching my breath fog the inside of the helmet. The GPS sat on the bars, map neat and clean, route drawn like nothing strange had happened. "Turn left," it said cheerfully, "then continue straight." I pulled off to the side and killed the motor. Silence rushed in, full of crickets, a distant truck on some other highway, normal sounds, plain sounds. My hands shook as I checked my phone. 10:44 p.m., same date, 2 minutes had passed. It felt like it had been gone an hour. My boots hit the asphalt when I dismounted. I squatted down, wiped a hand over the dirt in the ditch, dry leaves, old bottles, normal trash. But then when I looked at my own boots, my laces were caked with damp red clay, grave dirt, the kind that clamps and sticks and smells like rain and something older. I reached out and pinched a little bit off, rolled it between my fingers, too fresh for where I was standing. My phone buzzed in my hand, and a text popped up from a buddy. "Hey man, you home yet? Roads are a mess in town. Wreck on 85. Be careful." Sent 3 minutes ago. 3 minutes? I looked back at the tree line, breathing shallow. The lane to Advent Hope Church was gone, but the dirt on my boots wasn't. Next morning, I did what I do. I went digging. Can't help it. Some folks drink it away. Some pretend it never happened. Me, I go looking for paper. I pulled every old county map I had off the shelf, cross-checked state online archives, looked for County Road 0 or any spur off. That intersection looked like it had ever had a number. Nothing. Road on the main drag, sure. Crossroad, sure. Little white church on the hill to the left, still standing in the tax records, still holding potlucks and choir practice. No Advent Hope where I'd been. So I got mean about it. I dug into church records, old association, minutes, handbooks, written with fading ink about those who joined, who got sent off for drinking and too much corn liquor. I wasn't even looking for much, just a mention, a note, an obituary. After nearly 2 hours of reading through shaky cursive and archaic spelling, I saw it tucked in a margin. Members dismissed by fire from Advent Hope, Year of Our Lord 1932, meeting house and many souls lost. My throat went dry. I hunted that name down harder, finally found a newspaper scan in some dusty online corner. The image quality was garbage, but the story was there. A country meeting house called Advent Hope burned in a night storm, lightning hitting the bell tower, fire catching the dry rafters. Account said the bell kept ringing as the roof fell in, calling them home. Some got out, many didn't. Historians estimate at least 36 dead, maybe more, since some names were not recorded. The article mentioned a small graveyard that could not be fully relocated due to soil instability and confusion regarding certain plots. They built a new church closer to town, different name, left the hill to the trees. I scrolled all the way down to the list of the dead. Third from the bottom, smudged but still legible, was my full name. Same spelling, same middle initial that was off by one letter from my own. Age didn't match, born decades too early, but there it was. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Later that afternoon, I went out to the garage to clean the bike. Gravel dust everywhere, pine needles stuck in odd places. Fog left a faint line on the chrome. When I got to the front fender, I saw a thin streak of white paint on the lower edge. Old paint, chalky and flaky. Looked exactly what might have come from a leaning church porch rail. Since that night, I've been back past that crossroad more times than I can count. In daylight, mostly. Every time, it's the same. Four-way stop, shot up sign, trees thick on the corner where there ought to be a lane. Nothing in the ditch but cans and weeds. But sometimes, when the fog's lying low over the ground and my mind's on something else, the GPS on my bars will do that little glitch again. The map will jerk like it wants to pull off to the right. A thin gray line appears at the edge of the screen. No name, no number. And the voice will drop for just a second, lose a little bit of its cheerful. Rerouting, it'll say. Turn right. I don't so much as tap the brake now. I keep rolling, hands steady, eyes straight ahead. Not tonight, I tell it quietly. I know where that road goes. If you ever find yourself out on some Carolina backroad after dark, fog on the ground, and your navigation glitching like it's possessed, you remember this. Every shortcut costs something. If a road ain't on the map, and no one in town's ever heard of a church that it leads to, you let that voice nag. You let that little wheel spin on recalculating till your battery dies. Because somewhere out there, at the end of some zero road, a little congregation is still sitting in the dark, waiting on late arrivals, and they've already got your name on a stone.